Yeah, we're here at the, I say, Wormsloe. We're at the visitor center here. It looks like it's fairly new. Quite the fireplace they built there. Some nice big ceiling fans. And we'll go inside and check it out. Now we're inside. Get a little information. It's a state park here. Okay, we came out of the back of the side of the building. The building's only about 4 months old now. It's brand new. And they have a shuttle here that'll take us 1.5 miles up down the oak covered way instead of walking it, which is free. It comes with your ticket. And they do have bike rentals here if you want to rent a bike.
The founder of Wormsloe, Noble Jones. Noble Jones was one of the first 114 settlers that arrived in Yamacraw Bluff in February of 1733 with General James Oglethorpe, settling on the Island of Hope, 9 miles southeast of the newly founded city. Jones was a significant figure in colonial Georgia, serving as a carpenter, constable, agent for the Indians, royal counselor, and surveyor for the colony, and even briefly as the colony's doctor. Noble Jones and his descendants remained at Wormsloe until the state of Georgia acquired most of the property in 1973.
The Wormsloe Arch off to your right was built in 1913. It was a birthday gift to one of Noble Jones's great-grandsons. The Wormsloe Cottage was built in 1917, and it became the superintendent's cottage where he and his family resided.
They've got 400 oak trees they planted back here in the early 1900s. And I'll tell you, it really makes a beautiful driveway.
At the time, Charleston was the British southernmost colony. So he approached King George with the request to create this colony. He used the excuse that the British needed a militarized buffer zone between the British-held Carolinas and the Spanish-held Florida and what is now southern Georgia. The three main powers, England, France, and Spain, always seemed to be at war with one another over the expansion of their empire. And at that time, England was at war with Spain. So King George thought that was a good idea, but he wanted to know what General Oglethorpe was going to name this new colony. And quick thinking, Oglethorpe said, we're going to name it after you, we're going to name it Georgia. And that's how Georgia got its name.
The original descendants live there.
The Wormsloe Foundation lost their tax-exempt status. And at that time, it was decided that they would donate a large portion of the property to the state of Georgia. There was, however, one stipulation. The land could never be subdivided or developed in any way. It must remain natural at all times. So there will never be any homes or subdivisions built on the 1,300 plus acres of Wormsloe Estate. Now, Wormsloe is located on one of the dozens of barrier islands that surround Savannah in Chatham County.
There's the old silo.
A little bit of trivia on how Isle of Oak got its name. During the late 1700s and early 1800s, The colony, along with most of the colonies along the eastern coast, were always hit with yellow fever.
Well, Brenda always wanted a live oak covered driveway with hanging moss, and there it is. There's 400 of these live oaks planted down this, which is probably close to, I don't know how far that is, but it's got to be a good half a mile, if not longer, driveway.
It's a mile.
It's a mile. Brenda says it's a mile long driveway. It's really something. Well, Brenda and I've always liked the oak covered driveways, and here at this museum you got about a mile worth, over 400 trees. It is just beautiful. Okay, now.
Okay, so here in a minute we're coming up to the Wormsloe's Tabby ruins. Noble Jones completed his fortified Tabby house in 1745. It originally included 8-foot walls with corner bastions encircling the house to allow flanking musket fire from gun ports that covered all approaches. Construction of the house took almost 6 years and required mixing more than 8,000 bushels each of limestone sand, oyster shells, and water to make tabby. Large shell middens left behind by Native Americans were mined for oyster shells.
Okay, here's the ruins. And you really get looking at it. I'll have Brenda get some close-ups with her camera. Okay, now we're headed toward the Jones family gravesite down this dirt path.
Noble Jones was buried here in 1775 next to his wife Sarah and youngest son Inigo. Jones' remains were later moved twice to Colonial Cemetery and finally to Bonaventure Cemetery in Savannah. In 1875, George Wimley Jones, Doreen, placed his stone monument to mark the original family burial site.
Now this tree here is an eastern red cedar. Now here's the old ironsmiths. Here's the bellows. Here we got the anvil. Now this is part of the colonial life here. Guess this was some of their little lean-to houses we had to make out of some sticks and palm leaves. But hey, I guess if it rains it's better than nothing. Except it looks like you need to do a little work and still have a leaky roof. Well, I think we're almost back to where the trolley dropped us off, and then we got the museum up here to look at. The William Bartram Trail, traced 1765-1766. On his first journey to Florida in 1765, Barnum and his father John observed figs, oranges, peaches, nectarines, very delicious pomegranates at Wormsloe. Mr. and Mrs. Craig Barrell III and the Wormsloe Foundation, in cooperation with Georgia Department of Natural Resources and the Barnum Trail Conference. Well, now we're in the museum. And here's how the Tabby house was. Well, that's quite the gate there. A lot of history here. This would have been the Joneses. This is a model of the Joneses home with the walls around it. Well, today I'm playing like I'm tattooed. Instead of saying the plane, it's the trolley of the trolley. Well, it's been a great little tour through here. It was very interesting, somewhere we've never even heard of, so we looked it up on the internet. Well, here we come back to the visitor center, so that concludes our trip here, and it was very interesting. Just amazing. It was a beautiful setting. And they found us back in the 1700s. Okay, for lunch today we're going to stop at the Driftway Cafe, which is not just right down the road from where we went toward the plantation. So we'll stop in here and check it all out. It looks kind of cute. We're at the Driftway Cafe for lunch. Well, first of all, we ordered some fried green tomatoes, and boy, they look good. We'll try them out. Well, the fried green tomatoes went away, but now we've got the Cuban sandwich here, which we'll dig into that here shortly. And man, look at that Cuban. Oh my gosh. It looks so good.